Okay, well, all right. Let me fix the lighting here so you guys can see me okay. All right, well, there we go. Well, hello, hey, welcome, good morning, buenos dias, everybody. Welcome to another fun-filled school year here at Grossmont College. I'm Professor Cañedo, or as I guess my nickname has been for the past few semesters, a kind of self-imposed, but I guess it's stuck. El profesor, which of course is Spanish for the professor. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited to be with you guys for the entirety of the semester. So this is the welcome, my introduction video for both for all of you in my classes this semester, whether you're in the two sections of the History 108 class or the one section of the History 109 class. So what I want to do for you guys this morning is just go ahead and say a few things about myself, my background, my experiences. Basically, right now, as I mentioned in the introductions, in the opening announcement for everybody, is to go into the discussion board section and just introduce yourselves in there. But what I've done for the past few semesters is started making more and more use of videos. So this is my way of saying hello to everybody. But as we get going for this first week of the semester, there's quite a lot of nuts and bolts. Administrative bureaucratic stuff that I have to get through for these next couple of weeks. I've got plenty more videos and announcements in which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the class. Just to give you a quick sketch for those of you in the History 109 class, I'll have a video for you tomorrow in which I outline the class in more detail, tell a little bit more about the assignments, because right now you've got the readings right now to work on this week. I'll say a little bit more about that. While those of you in History 108 class, you have a little bit of time before we actually get going to the reading, so you have a little bit of a I guess, get acquainted week. So I'll wait until Wednesday to tell you a little bit more about some of the class items, such as the assignments, the quizzes, the exams, the journals, and all of that fun stuff. So that's coming up on Wednesday for those of you in History 108 class. But again, for those of you in the Modern U.S. class, the 109 section, I'll give you more nuts and bolts stuff coming up tomorrow. All right. Well, listen. Let me go ahead and spend these next 5-10 minutes telling you a little bit about myself, my background, and I guess a little bit about these headquarters here. Headquarters here. So this will essentially be my base of operations, my world headquarters for these next 4 months. This is my home office, and my home office is actually not in San Diego County, so I'm not really near the Grossmont campus. I'm actually up in the Riverside County. I'm here in a little patch of Riverside County known as French Valley. It's a little bit north of Temecula, a little bit east of Marietta, and a little bit south of Winchester. So it's sort of tucked away. It's sort of a newer development section of Riverside County. Some of the first homes started coming in here I'd say about 10 to 12 years ago, but there's more and more development going on. So those of you who come out here, whether you go to the Temecula wine country, you got family and friends in Marietta, or you go in toward Hammett, maybe all the way even out toward Palm Springs and the desert cities, and you take the 79 Winchester Road. Undoubtedly, you've seen some of the development going on. And I've been living out here now for about the past 3 years. Actually, I actually lived in National City for the vast majority of my life. I didn't move out of there until about 3 years ago. In fact, it's going to be 3 years this coming September that I've been out here in Riverside County. And it's definitely, you might say, I wouldn't so much as to go far as say it's a culture shock or culture change, but it's definitely much different to being out here compared to National City. But I've enjoyed it ever since. It's been great out here, and I'm actually pretty glad that I decided to make the move from National City out over here. But I do go into San Diego quite a bit for when I have on-campus sections. I actually have on-campus sections this semester from my other schools at Mesa College and Southwestern College. So I'll be coming in and out of the area for the entire semester. But it looks like for the spring semester, I'll be back to online exclusively. So for the most part, my schedules have been that I have mainly or all online for the entire semester. But from time to time, I do have one class on campus, whether it's at Southwestern or for Mesa. But it just so happens that for this semester, I've got on-campus sections for both Southwestern and Mesa. And on that note, besides being here at Grossmont, I've been here at Grossmont since the 97, 98 school year. So I guess you might say I'm one of the veteran part-timers, veteran adjuncts, veteran contingent, veteran associate. Uh, the terms for the part-timers seem to change from year to year. So it's either adjunct, associate, contingent, part-timer, whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, whether it's myself or some of my colleagues in the department, such as Professor Hargrove, Professor DeBella, Professor Gastel, and many others, all of us, Professor Tuller, we're in the part-time category. But like with our full-time colleagues, whether it's Dr. Contreras, Dr. Gonda, Mr. Ennis, we're definitely committed to giving you guys the best in education, no matter what our interests are. Despite the fact that we don't have the quote I guess full-time status compared to our full-time colleagues. But like I said, I've been here at Grossmont for going to be close to 20 years. I've done mostly the U.S. Stuff in that time, but I do from time to time the Latin America sections, the History 114 and 115, especially when Dr. Contreras is away on sabbatical. I cover for him. And also, too, I do some of the History 124 classes, the History of California. I think this semester Professor Gastel has that section, but looks like I'll have a section coming up for the spring semester. So it's during the springs that I have the California class. The fall is when I have the 108 class, but all year long, fall and spring is when I have the History 109 sections. Um, at Southwestern and at Mesa, I do a lot of the Mexican American Studies, Chicano classes. So whether it's Mexican American Studies at Southwestern or Chicano Studies at Mesa College, I get into a lot of topics such as the Aztecs, the Maya, the Toltecs, the Olmecs, and of course the times of Spanish colonization. So when Cortes and his merry band of henchmen make their way across the Atlantic, and the early days of Spanish colonialism, when Spain, when Mexico was a colony of Spain for the better part of 3 centuries, I covered that quite a bit. So a lot of the topics that I do in those classes will filter into the 108 class because, of course, in the 108 class we do have a little bit of coverage about the Spanish influence in the United States, and of course we're talking about places like California, Texas, New Mexico, which were under Spanish domain for a long time, and then for a short time Mexican domain until the U.S.-Mexico War in the mid-1800s, in which that area finally became U.S. territory. So I covered, get into a little bit about that in the History 108 section. Let's see. Oh, in terms of my background, schooling, and all of that fun stuff. Well, first I'm a native of the San Diego, so I was born and raised in National City, and I went to the whole elementary school, middle school, and or junior high. That's right, it's middle school now, but back then it was called junior high. Junior high, high school in the South Bay. I'm actually a graduate of Hilltop High, and from Hilltop, then I went on to UCSD. My BA is in anthropology, actually, and then I went to San Diego State, and my master's is in Latin American studies. So just as I was finishing up my master's in the late 90s was when I began to make the transition from a student to teacher. In fact, I just had about one semester left at San Diego State before when I started working at both Southwestern and at Grossmont. I think it's in the fall of '97, fall of '98. So I'm starting to forget exactly what time frame it was, but it was toward the late 1990s. Teaching interest, like I said, I gave you a little bit of sense of some of the things I do for the in my Southwestern and Mesa classes, but for the U.S. classes, I love to cover everything from whether for the 108 section, whether it's things like Manifest Destiny, the Great Awakening, the early colonies, and of course the chaos that's happening in the U.S. before the U.S. Civil War, the 1850s. Get into a lot of coverage about that. Andrew Jackson, one of my favorite topics that I like to cover. In fact, interestingly, I seem to spend a little bit more time on Andrew Jackson in my Chicano Studies and Mexican American Studies classes compared to the 108 class. So go figure how that happens. But that's been the pattern actually for the past few semesters. In the 109 section, the modern class, I like to get into a lot of things such as popular culture, people and society in the early 20th century, what people like to do for pastimes, And one of the things that we're going to be doing quite a bit in the 109 section is the history of American jazz. So we've got a big assignment about the Ken Burns jazz series, in which we'll explore everything from the early days of Freddie Kepler and, of course, Louis Armstrong, all the way through into the bebop era with Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, early Miles Davis, and then finishing off with the jazz of 1960s and into 1970s, with people like Herbie Hancock come on the scene, and Stan Getz, the bossa nova period, all of that stuff. So that's going to be a major focus of the History 109 section. But when I show you my other videos coming in for the next few days, I'll get into a lot more specifics in terms of what we're going to be looking at in each class. All right, and finally, to wrap things up about myself in terms of interests and activities, what I like to do when I'm not being el profesor. Right off the bat, I'm sure many of you have noticed, and I'm sure a good portion of you in the class are Padres fans. You're looking at that and say, wait a minute, is that a Dodgers shirt El Profesor had? He's a traitor. He's this. He's that. Yeah, it's a Dodgers shirt. Sure, right. I'm a big fan of those guys. I used to like them a lot when I was really little, back in the days when Steve Garvey was in his prime, Davey Lopes, Reggie Smith, Ron Say, Steve Yeager, and then of course when Fernando came on the scene back in the early '80s. Then I got away from them for a while, and I was following the Padres, especially going through junior high and high school. Of course, I didn't want to be the odd duck. I didn't want to be harassed or picked on by my friends. What? You're not a Padres fan? What's the matter with you, Oscar? Take that and that and that. So, but when I moved out here to Riverside County 3 years ago, obviously the TV here, the cable, Time Warner, doesn't carry the Padres. Of course, it carries the Dodgers. I started following them again especially when Yasiel Puig came on the scene, and I guess you could say I've been a fan of those guys ever since. So yeah, my high school friends aren't too happy about that I made the transition. But thankfully, I'm not a Raiders fan, so they kind of forgive me about that. But as for other sports too, I like the other teams. Besides the Dodgers, I love the Tigers, and in hockey, big fan of the NHL, so I love the Ducks and the Red Wings. Uh, Football, I'm not really that big of a football fan, but I do like the Lions. They played quite a bit better in the last few years, but still hoping they make that extra push to get further into the playoffs, maybe even the Super Bowl. Basketball, I'll watch from time to time. I like the Clippers, but I'm not really a big fan of the Clippers. But hockey and baseball are definitely the big sports that I watch all the time. Man, hockey season's just around the corner. Training camps open up in September. Anxious to see if the Ducks can finally take that next step and actually go on to the Stanley Cup. Curious to see what happens if the Kings can rebound from a tough season. And of course, hoping to see that the Red Wings make the playoffs for what will probably be their 27th straight year. So curious to see how the guys in Motown do there. Other interests and activities, music. I mentioned jazz early on, and while I do like jazz, I would say the music has been with me since I was a young buck, a young dude. Was a rock and roll. So the rock and roll of whether it was Aerosmith, the Rolling Stones, and then of course the heavy metal that came on the scene in the 1980s, the Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, and progressive bands like Rush, uh, and then other bands like ZZ Top, Steely Dan, and the Eagles. Those are a lot of the bands that I like, and when those guys are touring, I make it a point to go check them out. In fact, just this past year, I've seen Steely Dan and I've seen Rush, and I'm actually going to go check out Motley Crue at the end of the year. So definitely looking forward to seeing those guys before they finally call it quits. They've been at it for almost 35 years. Kind of surprised that they're all alive at this point in time. Um, and let's see anything else. Oh, and other thing too, and in my future videos, you'll probably see this as well. I have quite a few feline friends. I have three cats. I have one cat who likes to be inside. A gray Persian. I think she's asleep right now, but in a future video she might join me. And then if I do make some videos outdoor in the patio for you, you'll probably see some of my two outdoor friends. I mean, they cause a lot of mischief and mayhem when I record videos for my Southwestern and Mesa groups. So we'll see if they make an appearance in some videos coming down the line as the semester progresses. And let's see, anything else I should mention? No, I think that pretty much covers in terms of who I am, what I'm all about. Um, But again, I just want to give you a sense, a character sketch of myself, and undoubtedly, I want you guys to give me your character sketches. So for the remainder of the week, please go into the discussion forum section, introduce yourselves, tell me who you are. If you want to include photos, selfies, things of that nature, by all means, go ahead and do that. Uh, and over the next few days, as mentioned, I'll have more videos in which I get into more nuts and bolts stuff. So any concerns or questions about the class so far in terms of assignments or exams, please hold off on that for the next couple of days. Maybe wait until Thursday to ask me any questions. Let me try to roll up as many nuts and bolts videos and announcements over the next few days to tell you exactly some of the key points of the class. So again, as I said at the start of this video, coming up tomorrow, Tuesday, I'll go ahead and say quite a bit about the structure of the 109 section, and then on Wednesday I'll say more about the structure of the 108 sections, and then I've got some other videos from previous semesters that'll work just fine. That'll give you more um, more nuts and bolts stuff, more information in terms of the way some of these assignments works, the structure, the grading parameters, and all of that fun stuff. All right, so that's everybody. It's great to meet all of you. I'm looking forward to reading all of your introductions. So I think it's going to be a great semester, and I'll talk to you guys again later on this week. Starting first tomorrow, I'll talk to those of you in the History 109 section, and then coming up on Wednesday, I'll talk to you in the History 108 section, and there'll be plenty more videos and announcements during the course of the week and into next week too. All right, everyone. So take care. Have a great semester, and I'll talk to you guys again within the next day or two.